Hello, everyone. Bergen County. Whoop, whoop. Give it up for yourselves for being here today. It's a big deal, man. You're making a commitment to jump in. I'm seeing some familiar faces. All right, who wants to share or unmute how many times you've been through Ignite with us so far? And you can count this one since you're here today. How many times? 2. We got a 2. Anybody beat a 2? I'm seeing some new faces and new numbers as well, or names as well. All right.
Question?
What's that?
Hi, what's the question?
The question is how many times you've been through Ignite with us. Since we started this in 2021, we ran it 3 times, I think. This is time number 4. So I was just curious how many times you've been through Ignite and or been through Ignite with us.
With you specifically, 1. Before you, 3, 2.
Nice. All right.
What the hell's happening?
Victoria, I hear you in there. How many? 3. All right. Cool. We even got a future real training, I hear. All right. Who was that? Was that Nora?
Oh, yeah.
And we got Donna as well.
This is my first time.
First time. Go ahead.
Hi, Brad. Yeah, it's my second time.
All right. Cool, cool.
Hi, Brad. This is my
Hey.
first time.
Awesome. Thanks for getting here.
Thank
glad
you.
glad you got the email. All right, guys. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Tamina. This is my first time here.
Awesome. Okay, guys, look at the names on the screen. If you have to do a screenshot and paste it in an email address, look at the names that are here. These are your people that you want to rely on for the next couple months. We've got 18 sessions that we're cramming in. We're not really cramming. It's an hour-long session and designed this way so that you can make the commitment to get all the way through all the Ignite material. However, there's some trade-off, okay? When Ignite was originally designed, it could have been an all-day class and it went for a longer period of time. And you had to make that time commitment to be there all day. And I'll just tell you, as an instructor and a trainer, I'll give you my background here in a minute, but I've been a MAPS coach, team leader, just about every role you can imagine at KW, including mega agent selling 100 homes a year. I mean, that's what really set the stage for all the other items, because I sold real estate and built my business and actually restructured it when I came to Keller Williams and started following the models. It made it easy for me to say yes to a couple other opportunities, like opening our own market center, being team leader to launch that one, and so forth. So I'm bringing a lot of experience today in this hour and in this whole entire session of Ignite, so that you guys can hear it from a real agent that's in the trenches, not a trainer or a coach that maybe hasn't sold real estate in a while. I've got contracts flowing right now, closings happening this week and this month, and I'm in the trenches with you every day. So what I get to bring to these sessions are real world, how I use scripts and got things done in real estate. I'm glad that you're attending 3, 4, I've heard 3 times, I think is the most that I heard. So if somebody said 4, I apologize. Post your name in the chat and let us go ahead, know that you are a 4-timer for sure. Because the way this session is set up, and it's worked out really great. This is now the 4th time we've done it here. We're getting more of you to show up and stick with the class longer when you can commit to an hour and still get work done in life and everything else that's happening around you. We're doing it virtually versus in person. That allows all of us to get together. It allows me to be the one that gets to come share my personal experiences and how, as a coach, I know how to translate that into your world too. So this is very interactive. If you ever have any questions, other than the fact that I talk really fast and pour a lot of information into this hour, you cut me off however you need to cut me off to ask the question, whether it's in the chat, I'm watching the window, or just unmute yourself and kind of say, just raise your hand. There's a hand raising thing, say something, try and get in between my breaths, right? And because your participation, I will tell you the best classes we have is when you guys jumped in and asked a question or shared how you've done some things. That is like that. Those were the best classes. So when you bring that real world stuff. So next thing I'll tell you is, because we cover every aspect of your real estate business, some of you may not have been through all the things that we're going to cover yet, whether that's a buyer consultation, whether it's getting a seller to sign on the dotted line, whatever it may be. No matter where you are in your business is where you are. And that's just where you're supposed to be right now. And you're here so that you can get an overview of all aspects of the real estate business so that you can really grow a business worth owning and a life worth having. So what I'm going to share with you today is, hopefully you downloaded your manual for the Spark One Fuel Your Career. And today we're really talking a lot about the database, what kind of conversation to have with your database. By the way, your database is a gold mine. If you've been through a session with me before, you know that one piece I layer into all of these courses is that there are truly 100 sales sitting in your list. I have yet, over 20 years of sharing this material, found anybody that has less than 100 deals sitting in their database and their list of people who know who they are or they know who they are. And the challenge has been the way our industry is set up. It trains us to go get the next deal, look for the next for sale by owner, look for the next expired. When in actuality, people who already know you probably like you and probably trust you. I'm gonna see if I can figure out where that's coming from. May have gotten it. That already know you, probably like you, probably would trust you enough because they may not know somebody else in real estate that they would probably do real estate with you. And we're going to share that number today, that I think every one of you could probably say after today, okay, there really probably is 100 transactions sitting here. Now you just need to put the stuff that we share into action and start capturing some of those. If you capture,
Brad?
Yeah, go ahead.
So sorry. Where can we find the manual? It wasn't put in any of the emails we were sent. Is there a place where we could download it?
Absolutely. I am going to grab an email real quick that has the link for that. Here we go. The Google that's Instructor Files. Let me find the one from Mary Beth here. Oh, that she did share that as an instructor. I wonder if that's the same one. Yeah, it's the same one. Hold on. You're going to see a folder in there. Well, that says Instructor Files. I think Jason's on here. He might be able to post that as well. Combined office roster. Oh, this computer's bouncing around here. I'm trying to find it. Ignite 2022 links. There we go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Let me give you this link right here.
Are you emailing? Where are you putting it?
I'm going to put it right here in the chat box.
Okay.
And so here's a trick. Click on that. You can't copy and paste out of chat boxes on Zoom. So click the link and it will open up a new window, and then highlight that URL and paste it in an email back to yourself and just call it Ignite 2022 links. That way, anytime we give you a new link, you can just add to your email, and all you have to do is go to your email and search Ignite 2022, and you're going to find the links that you need. Because I know you're busy real estate business people, and you're running. It's like, oh my gosh, class is starting. And you want to find those links real fast. So I do the same exact thing. I have one email that just says my Ignite 2022 links. And that way I can just pull it up and every link I need for the class is there, to the manuals, to the roster. You should have access to the roster as well. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It says request access.
Request access. So click that and request access. And I believe they will give you access. You should have.
I actually have them in my email already. So if you guys want to just put your emails down, I'll copy and paste it to you guys. I'll send it to you.
There you go. Cool. And I'll send out an email to everybody who's registered that's on the registration list with all the links as well. When I set up my email for this round of classes, I'll try and make it as simple as possible for you to find the information. So today, and we're recording it too. So if you need to go back and watch the recording with the manual and go through the manual, that is probably the best way to do it. The first manual here isn't super thick. I don't think we're going to cover any too intense content. If you're here and you're attending and you don't have the manual sitting in front of you, I think you'll get as much out of it today as you would anyway. However, here's the suggestion, guys. Here. Got another question?
No.
Okay. All right. That's okay. So just jump in anytime, guys, and I'll pause for you. Here's what I would suggest. Now, this is going to take a little bit of a commitment. Just think of yourself as working for yourself and clocking in and clocking out for an hour every day during Ignite. What I would suggest is tomorrow, pull up the Spark 2 manual and just glance through the material. Just skim through it. You don't have to read it like a book, but just kind of skim through the material. Then when we meet again on Wednesday, we go through the material. You're going to take notes while you're going through class. And then the next day, if you review your notes, or right after class even, review your notes along with the manual, go back through it one more time, and then or the next day, review your notes from the previous class and glance through the material for the next class. So if you do that in between, you're going to have seen the material 3 different times. And the third time, you're going to be able to relate it to the questions or start items you wrote down or ideas that I gave you, and you get to see that again. So the reason why I say that is because you might not be experiencing all the stuff we're talking about while we're going through Ignite now. However, you are going to, and this will help you trigger that you've been through it before, or, oh man, I know that one. I know a script I could have used on that, or whatever it might be. That's going to trigger in there when you've been through it a few times versus just showing up, opening the manual, going through. You will probably take good notes, but not reviewing the notes before was the biggest mistake I made. The way I got things implemented was reviewing my notes again and applying what I got out of that session into the material notes and having the instructor's fresh message in my brain, right? So just a little tip on how you can get the most out of this session. Let me open it up one more time real quick, and then we'll jump into the material. Does anybody have anything particular that you saw this content, you did have the manual, you saw the title of the class, and there's something specific that you're looking to make sure you walk away with today? Because this one was just on Fuel Your Career. It's got stuff about the database in there, some things like that. I will add this just in case you're thinking about what you might want to get out of today's class. There's a lot of stuff that we touch on command throughout Ignite. One thing that this is not is a command class, okay? Hopefully you have a tech person in your office that really knows command, knows it inside and out, and you could just go to them with anything that we've talked about in the command section of the book and actually ask them how to do that or how to add somebody to command or whatever it might be, whatever level you're at. There's so much content. We have to stay specific to the content and make sure I overview it so you can relate it all to your business versus going in, logging into command and doing that. What I would suggest is the reason why I said write down the names of the people in the class or do a screenshot and throw it in your email is everybody's going through Ignite together with this session. So these are your people you might want to schedule a call with either right after our session each day, or once a week, you guys get together and just go over your ahas or questions that you have about Command or Ignite. And I guarantee you there's somebody in the group who's probably already figured out what you're trying to figure out. I'm pretty techie, so you can ask me any questions, even outside of the class that's specific to getting into Command and moving around and doing all that stuff. I still haven't used every aspect of Command. I know there's so much more that I can use and I will use. However, I'm learning it just like everybody else is. So one of my suggestions is that when you are feeding your database, which we're going to talk about in a minute, the more you use Command just a little bit every day, even if it's just adding a person to Command, you're already advancing your skills in Command by using it. And we're not just going to talk Command. I mean, if you're using a different database, you should be able to relate all of this material to any database that you might be using. All right, so one last call. If there's anything specific that you guys want to make sure you walk away with. All right, this is great. You guys are all putting emails.
I'm looking at, I'm looking at the, thank you, by the way, Leo. I'm looking at the Ignite 2022 links. It's like 20 links, like Ignite Spark, Ignite Lead Generation, then Ignite Elementals. Like there's,
Yep.
Which one am I clicking on? Am I
Great.
click on every single one of them? That's
You
like
right now
300 pages.
No, it's a great question. So Spark, the Spark manuals are the first session that we will run. You got Spark 1 through 9, and then we've got the elements 1 through 9. And there will be a PDF. I was actually trying to find my link to see what it looks like on what you're looking at. So Ignite, Spark, Fuel Your Career is the very first one. That's the PowerPoint presentation. And that one you can click on, and that will give you the content that we're covering today.
Got it. Okay,
All
now
right.
it makes sense. Now it all makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. So Spark will run through 9 sessions, and then we'll pick up elements. So one of them is the how to build your business, or the what or whatever, the business itself, the business aspect. The elements, we really talk about the specific what you do to grow your business. So we kind of get to cover the material. Some of the material, it seems like we're covering it a couple times. But yes, great question. I'm glad you asked that. Yes, there's a lot of links there. All right, anyone else? Get you guys back up. What a great turnout today. You guys are awesome. All right, so we're going to start off, and I've got a PowerPoint here. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can watch on the screen. You don't have to have your book in front of you. You can definitely take notes. Make sure I shared the right one. Oh, I think I shared the wrong one. Let me do that again. Get our little techie side figured out here. Yep, I shared the wrong screen. Stop. That's the PowerPoint. I want to give you the bigger one that will be easier to see. There we go. Believe that's the one. No, that's the same one I just shared. Doggone it. One thing, when we do have our little techie delays, they won't last long. I don't let the computer win very often. Well, it looks like, oh, there it is. Okay, I see what I was doing. PowerPoint slideshow. All right, here we go. Now let me get all you guys back on my big window and get the chat box where I can see it as well. There we go. Now we're cooking with grease. That's a Midwest term. You guys are East Coast. You don't say cooking with grease in New Jersey, do you?
Cooking with gas.
Cooking with gas.
Cooking with fire.
Fire.
Fire. There you go. I like that. Ignite and
I know
fire.
cooking with
Okay.
grease.
All right, guys, we're going to also have fun too. I should have told you that. I don't know how not to have fun. So we're going to have fun while we do this class as well. All right, so let's jump in here and crank out this material. Again, just jump in and try your best to get me to pause for a second if you have any questions. Okay, your big why. I know you've probably heard about big why before, but your big why truly is for you guys in particular, for everyone attending, it is what makes you, or what is going to make you jump out of bed at 4:30 or 5 every morning and go, I am ready for real estate. Let's go, and be excited about it. Now, whether you do it at 4 or 5 doesn't really matter. I'm just saying at that extent that you are up and out of bed and ready to turn your day on and ignite your business, if we want to say it that way. But your big why is that core thing that drives you. Now, I'm spending just a second on this because there's a lot of people that do their whys and they don't really find out the why that would make them jump out of bed 2 hours early and really drive the day as hard as they can. So there's a book out there called What's Your Why by Kent Burns. It's been out of production for a while, so it might be hard to find, but see if you can find What's Your Why by Kent Burns, and I'll put it in the chat box as well. And the only reason why I say that is what's your why? Kent Burns. When I read this book, and I'll upload this to your documents as well. I think we already have maybe them uploaded. There's just a quick summary that I wrote, my summary of reading the book, and it's pretty easy read. It's a really easy read. And it really, what he taught me to do was dig about 7 or 8 layers down in what's your why. And there's a point to this. So it's very important that you figure out what your why is, because it's actually going to drive a lot of everything else we talk about with the consumers through the rest of this class, at least in my opinion. And when you figure out what your why, it's kind of like saying, so what's your why that drives you to get out of bed in real estate? If anybody wants to share, just share a few of them. Let's see what you guys have to say. You can either type it in or unmute and just share what your why is, why you got into real estate and what drives you every day. Yeah, Ariane?
Right here.
Yeah, right there, the kiddos, right? Okay, I love it, love it. Anybody else? All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab on, is it Ariana or Ariane?
Ariane.
Yeah.
Ariane without the M.
I thought so, because you've been in previous class, haven't you?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, I thought you were. So Ariana, with kids, so you might say, my kids are my why. And the next question that you guys would ask, whatever your response was to that, I would say, so what is it about your kids that make them your why? And if you want to walk through this with me, you can just stay live. What is it about your kids that makes them your why?
Newly single parent, primary caretaker, new job, flexible hours, and opportunity for growth.
Okay, do you agree with those?
She said.
Yep. So it's the flexibility and being able to spend time with them, that kind of stuff, right? So I'm going to grab spending time with them. Now, remember, I said go about 7 or 8 layers deep. So if you get to spend time with your kids, Ariana, what's that do for you personally?
Makes me present when it counts.
Present when it counts for your kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're present with your kids and they know you're there and you're present, what does that do for you and for them? What's that do for you?
It builds upon our relationship,
Okay,
and that
so
foundational trust.
Trust, the relationship gets stronger. So when you have a strong foundational relationship with your kids, I mean, really, guys, get into this, right? What's that do for you, for real?
Kind of makes you feel kind of unstoppable, like as a parent, like solid.
Solid as a parent, you're doing a good job. Your kids love you. They respect you. They trust you, right? So when you have created a parent situation where that trust is there, the kids look up to you, they respect you, you respect them. What's that do for you and for your family?
It builds some confidence. It builds confidence in you, and that you're able to accomplish much more than what you're doing now.
Great. Okay, so guys, I want to show you just kind of what happened here. And you can do the same thing with money to pay the bills. Well, if the bills were paid every month, what's that do? It gives me a sense of, you know, security and just I'm not nervous about things. Okay, so when you're not nervous about things, what's that do for you?
So satisfaction.
What's that?
Satisfaction gives you when you pay the bill.
Yeah. Exactly. So you keep going through those layers until you get down to a core. When you find that core, because here's the other part of that. So I do it for the kids. Great. The kids had their trash room. They broke one of my favorite vases yesterday, throwing a ball around the living room. They knew that wasn't the rule. Tomorrow morning, I had a really bad day. The house is a disaster. The kids probably are not going to help you to jump out of bed and go for the day. However, knowing that you've got security, confidence, and all the stuff that you went through and you dug down is going to be the real reason why you get up and do every day. This is probably one of the most critical steps and could be one of the reasons where you'll stick through every single class. And like this hour is protected through the entire Ignite session, like it's a $10 million listing. I almost said $1 million listing, but I'm in the Midwest. That might be a little more common where you guys are, but not so much. I also know from having these previous classes that you guys have a more Midwest kind of price point in your area, don't you? I mean, it's not all $1 million, $2 million, $5 million listings.
No.
You guys got several $200,000, $300,000 listings, that kind of stuff.
200? Where's that?
Yeah, you don't have 300. All right, I like that.
Oh, there are, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
1 bedroom. It depends.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah, so that when you find that core, is what will make you committed to come in. Now, here's the secret. When you master the why and you can find out the why of your consumers, you may not do it as obvious as we just went through right there. But when you find out why it's important that they be moved, that they sell their property there, get to Florida before March of this year. And when you find out what that why is, if it's to be with the grandkids, I'm kind of using some bold examples, but we wanted to be with the grandkids in February, blah, 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 or maybe it's their daughter, right? It's like, man, what would it be like if, you know, that you sense that strong connection with their daughter? Say, what would it be like if you were in your new house, your new property in Florida for Valentine's Day with your daughter? And they'd be like, oh my gosh, that would be like a dream come true. So the reason why finding out that why is so important in that particular example is going to help me get them to price the property better on the front end when I might have overpriced the property, or, you know, we can always drop it if we need to and add some time to whatever's going on in their life, where they might have made those decisions quicker and better to get it to wherever it needs to be sold quickly. So hopefully you guys are kind of picking up on that. Mastering the why questions and mastering that with yourself first and then your clients is going to make everything so much easier. It's going to make the scripts flow easier. It's going to help you come across as a source that they are listening to and doing what you are suggesting they do. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions on that? So here's where in Ignite, in Spark and Elements, we talk about growing your business and then running the business. That's the two words I was looking for earlier. It's growing and then running your business. So it's what you're going to do and then how you're going to do it. And we're going to talk about all the things from lead generations for buyers and sellers, listing presentations, buyer presentations, previewing real estate, marketing. Oh, guys, we got some killer stuff. How would you like to have the system for a 10-minute CMA prep, and it's accurate every single time? It takes you 10 minutes to do a pricing opinion and to be able to go in and get the sellers to price where they should price it in the market. That we're going to cover when we get to the CMA and marketing presentations. Showing buyers houses, how I've actually built my business this way. I haven't put anyone in my car in a long time. Now, I know with COVID, it's easier to say that. However, I am talking about, I remember specifically when I was teaching a class for KW, doing one of the regional training things, that somebody was like, oh, we just can't do it that way. And there is a way that I have leveraged the buyers to get them to drive by all the properties first, only call me with 1 or 2 that they want to see, and write an offer within showing them 3, 4, or 5 properties. Now, again, you might be doing that now in this market. However, that is because there's a shortage of homes. People have to move on the properties faster, and it's COVID world. In a market when we start to get more inventory and you've built a system where it's done this way every single time, when there are 20 houses, 20 properties, I should say, on the market, and they want to see all 20, Brad Korn would only show them 3. And I have a way that they don't feel like they're not going to see all 20 because it's going to take too much time on me, and they don't want to inconvenience me. They want to go see the 2 or 3 and write the offer because they know there's a benefit in it for them. So we talk, everything that I share throughout this content and this material is always showing the benefit back to the consumer of why we do things the way that we do them. So we have everything in here from setting goals, and all that other stuff is going to be covered. So it's the whole aspect of your real estate business. So today we're going to start with just the spark on growing your business. And we got
Hi,
a
I'm Gary
video from
Korn.
Gary here.
This course will allow you to get off to a fast start you can build on. Because if you repeated the principles every 90 days for a year, believe me, you have an awesome first year. And just as important, you would have built the foundation and momentum for your entire career. It is practical, realistic, and easy to apply.
Oh, what did I do? I was going to change it because I wasn't sure if my audio settings were set for the screen. Could you guys hear it okay?
Yes.
Okay.
It's about the fundamentals that determine your level of success in the business of real estate. From our research with top agents, we have found that they too started their careers with these fundamentals, and they continue to do them along with their teams to this very day. And it's not hard. It just requires a little focused effort, a few hours every day. Now, there is really just one way to achieve the goal. It's lead generation. Other skills are important, yet without leads to work with, your skills won't mean a thing. Dealing with business never takes precedence over what? Finding business. Never. Research shows that top producing agents make lead generation their #1 priority and the one thing they make sure they always get done. You can do this. And when you do, you will get the leads, the relationships, the experiences, the career, and the income that you want in this earth. Go get them, and good luck.
All right. So if you think of lead generation as a 4-letter word, leads, we're going to change your whole outlook on lead and lead generation throughout this course, because I'll tell you guys, there are a lot of people out there are a lot of people out there and teams out there, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but it is, here's the phone, we lead generate for 4 hours a day. I can tell you personally that sitting down in front of a phone and dialing numbers off of a list and talking to strangers and trying to convince them to trust me for a second, to want to keep me on the phone and not want to get off the phone, like a cold call salesperson type thing, to me, that is the grindstone of real estate. That is something that when I watch the videos of some of the top agents that do that for 4 hours a day, I personally don't want any part of that. Now, if you like that and you can do that for 4 hours a day and you actually do it for 5 hours, 5 days a week, 4 hours, 3-4 hours a day, you're going to be successful in real estate no matter what you do. What I have seen is 99.9% of the people that I've ever coached or talked to or agents do not do 3 hours cold calling 5 days a week. That's just not realistic, and it's not fun. A lot of times, how many of you have been through Bold? Just kind of raise your hand, or, yeah, whatever. If you've been through Bold, I'll give you this perfect example, and then I'll kind of lay out why I'm going to tell you how simple and easy it is to find these 100 deals on the list of people you already know and like without having to sell them anything either. It's not like you're calling them, and nothing against the company, but like a Cutco knives or the vacuum cleaners they used to sell back in the day. You're not selling your friends something that they got to sit through a presentation for. Your friends, you're developing yourself as the go-to person for real estate information, and you are the person that knows real estate and knows the market, that they just call you with questions, right? But in that lead generation, that 4 hours of calling through in Bold, you're supposed to call 20 people a day. First week of Bold is really cool. It's really fun. It's super exciting because you sit down and you have at least 20 people to call the first day and maybe the second day. maybe the third day, maybe not, right? They give you the for sale by owner list. They give you the expired list. What I've noticed is by week 2 or 3, that list is almost non-existent. Can you guys relate to this a little bit? It's like I spend more time trying to figure out who my 20 people are to call 5 days a week for the last 5 or 6 weeks of Bold. And so we're going to create a list that you will have to pull from at any given time during Ignite, and you could lead generate a little bit every day. And when Gary shows that 3 hours, if you do that consistently on the right activities, I'm going to share with you how you can just reconnect and connect with friends, family, be a person in your community, and you're going to build your real estate business that way without actually selling real estate. That will be layered in everything that we talk about. So if that lead is a 4-letter word, just understand that it doesn't have to be. And I'm going to show you where the people are that won't hang up on you, and you don't have to sell them anything. Real estate is kind of like weather. They're going to talk about it no matter where you are. And I'll pause out every once in a while if you guys have any questions. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question. So one of
Yes.
my challenges with that is that, you know, I have a nice network of group in my community, right? In my town. However, there are also other people that are doing the same exact thing that I'd want to be doing that are also realtors, that are also well known within. So how do you tap a pre-existing town that's already like has all the realtors in place that know everybody just as much as I do, that I'm also close with? So how do you get in that kind of situation? Because there's no like untapped market, like as far as like untapped realtor market, you know, like where there are no realtors. So
Yeah.
in this situation now they're everywhere.
No, I'm actually going to show you just how untapped it is. Untapped. I talk with loan officers a lot as well and have coached some of the top loan officers. Do you know that every loan officer in your marketplace thinks you have a go-to lender that you use every single time you do a deal? And they don't realize that we don't. You may think you have a go-to person. It's kind of your habitual person you call. But actually, 80% of the real estate agents in real estate right now probably haven't sold more than 10 deals a year. 80%.
Wait,
right?
in my town?
In your town, the average sales per agent, if you take the number of real estate agents divided by the number of sales, what's the average sales per agent in a year? I'm going to guess 4, 5, or 6.
Okay, wrong town, but yeah, I'm sure. 'Cause
So
there's
if
like
every
predominantly 3 agents in my town that like one person in particular, she's a beast. So in a good way, proud of
Yeah.
that's good for her, but everyone.
yeah, so
So
I'll give you
I'm just giving you a challenge. Like
Yeah.
that's my obstacle.
yeah. So if there are 3,000 sales in that town, that agent probably has 100, 150 to 200 of them, not 1,000, not 500.
If there's how many people?
Let's just say there's 3,000 real estate properties that sell every year in that community where that person is.
That's not even normal, but okay.
They don't have 1,000 of the sales. Do you know how many agents sell 1,000 properties a year in the entire world? Very few, very few. So there's almost 2 million realtors, 1.5 million realtors. There's 170,000 Keller Williams agents, and there's not even 1,700 Keller Williams agents that sell 1,000 properties a year out of 170,000. There might be I don't even think there's 170 Keller Williams agents that sell 1,000 homes in their community. Probably less than, I don't know, a handful or 2 that sell more than 500 properties a year. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? The agents don't sell as much as you think they do. They do a lot of marketing in the community, and so their marketing is hitting you because you have your reticular activator on for real estate and you're aware of it all the time. But if the average person is moving every 5 to 7 years, they're not even thinking about real estate. They're not even looking at signs unless they start thinking about real estate. So that person in your community isn't really getting any mind share or brain cells. When you move to the relationship side, which I'll share with you a little bit today here in actually just a second, is that when you take over that spot and you stay in touch with people regularly, so 3 hours a day, you're just doing follow-up calls. Remember, they say the power of real estate is in the follow-up, and nobody follows up with everybody consistently and persistently. They just don't. Even your top real estate agents don't. They don't stay in touch consistently, persistently. What they do is they capture more of the market share, because in the MREA book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, those 28 people that Gary interviewed that show the 50-to-1 return, and they're making $1 million selling real estate. Everybody in that book has been selling real estate for 20 to 30 years, and they've had a market presence for that long, with the marketing going on for that long. And when they say, if you guys, and I should have had my book sitting here handy, I just pulled it out of my stack and stuffed it somewhere in my mess. I don't know where it is. You go, oh, here it is. The bullseye. The bullseye in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. If you haven't had the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book out in a while, this bullseye right here. So out here in the outer ring, the haven't mets is a 50-to-1 return. The haven't met group, targeted group, is a 50-to-1 return. That, and the 50-to-1 return means for every 50 people, they get one piece of business. That was from people making $1 million in real estate that have been in business for over 30 years. So 50-to-1, if you run the math, you know, if you do 100% is 2, 50-to-1 is 100-to-2. So it's 2% of the marketing that they do turns into business. Now, what we actually know is 1 to 2% of the people are moving at any given moment, but 100% of the people are moving over a 5 to 10 year period. Does that make sense? Let me say that again. If the average person is moving every 5 to 10 years, then it's 20% to 10% of the population is moving every single year. And over a 5 or 10 year period, 100% of those people will move. Well, I can tell you right, yep, go ahead. So I can tell you right now that they are not capturing 100% of the market share. In fact, Gary, I'll go right back to the core of where this teaching comes from, that Gary Keller does talk about the 8x8 and 33 touch, which, by the way, if you're going to write down a couple pages without having to read the whole Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, if you guys want to really master what I'm sharing with you today as you hear this message, pages 133 through 148. Page 133 through 148 of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. If you read that 12 times, you will absolutely blow your business up. 133 through 148. That was my one thing that I mastered, that I figured out, and I got lucky because I figured out the right thing. And it centers around lead generation. So when we were talking about lead generation, is it a 4-letter word for you? There's 4 laws, like gravity, the laws of gravity. There's 4 laws to lead generation. Does anybody know what they are? If you want to shout them out, you can. I'll start with one. Is number 1 was build a database, right? Does anybody know what number 2 of the 4 laws of lead generation are? Feed it every day. Feed it every day. So build a database, feed it every day. Number 3 is systematically communicate with it in a persistent, consistent manner. And then number 4 is service all the leads that come your way. So I'm still answering your question so that you get it, is that most people build a database and throw stuff in there, and then they service all the leads that come their way. What I have figured out as a high-level coach in this company is everybody skips step 2 and 3. Do you know how many people in Keller Williams know the 4 laws of lead generation, and how many people feed their database every day? And we're going to layer one little piece in there with those relationships that you mentioned earlier, that you think another realtor may have those things. But I guarantee, oh, let me see if we got a open mic. So that feed it every day, systematically communicate with it. Those 2 things get skipped by 99.9% of every realtor on the planet, including Keller Williams agents. I'm
sorry, Brad. What was number 4?
What was the last one?
Number 4 was service all the leads that come your way.
And
and the
which pages was it? I'm sorry to keep cutting you off.
Pages, no, you're okay. Pages 133 through 148 is
What was number
really,
3 again, please?
what's that?
Number 3.
Number 3 is systematically communicate with it. That's the short answer for consistently, persistently stay in touch with that person once you feed them in. I'll give you another quick example of this, why this is so important and why we're spending the time on it, because this is the core to get to 100 sales that are right there in front of you guys. And I'm just going to back it off and say 25 or 50 more than you're doing right now, because you got to get to 25 and you got to get to 50 before you can really believe that the 100 is there. But I'm going to show you that they're all there. But that feeding it every day, that's not the same as having a lead generation or an internet source just dumping leads into your database. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about if you build a relationship. In fact, this is the part that I base it on, and this is the part I got lucky enough to figure out early on. If you look in the inner ring for the Met ring, it's a 12-to-2 return on investment versus the 50-to-1 in the outer ring. I'm going to leave this up while I talk to you guys for a second about it. That 12-to-2 means you get 2 pieces of business for every 12 people that you meet or met and put on an 8x8 and 33 touch. Now, I'm going to ask you to write down a couple numbers real quick, because that's going to be important to the next piece that we want to make sure we cover before we end up our time today. We've got about 15 more minutes. So write down the number of people that are in your database right now. The number of people, roughly what you think are in your database right now. Okay, the next thing I want you to write down is last time you checked, how many friends did you have on your Facebook? If you use Facebook, how many friends are in your friends list? Forget about the fact that some of them are real estate agents right now. Some of them are people that sell products and services in your community. How many friends do you have? Write that number down if you know about what it is. The next thing would be go to your contacts in your cell phone. And for Android users, I'm not sure if it shows you a total somewhere. You should be able to see what your total is on your contact records. If you scrolled all the way to the bottom, go to your contacts, scroll all the way to the bottom. If you're an iPhone user, it shows you the number of contacts that you have in your phone. Write this number down. These are 3 pretty critical numbers for you to absolutely know for sure how you can play the real estate game different than most people do. Go ahead and shout out some numbers of who pulled up their phone. Just say, my phone, I have X contacts. Facebook, I have X contacts. Yeah, go ahead.
I have 1,892.
1,892, okay. Anybody else? Your cell phone or your Facebook friends list or your database?
I have 688.
688. Anybody else? And type them into the chat box too.
On Facebook, I have 988.
How many?
988.
988.
My phone contacts 563.
563.
Brad, when you say number of people in your database, you're talking about command, currently in command?
Whatever you call your database. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so you might not be using command completely yet, and you don't have everybody in there yet, but whatever database your big bulk of list of people are that you put them, right? Okay, so I'm just going to share something with you guys real quick. And this, as we're moving through Spark and Elements, we're going to go through all of building those daily successful habits. One of those habits that I'm going to suggest that you work on is creating a list to make sure that you get your sphere of influence under control and listed, because your sphere of influence, this is where the numbers are. And I'm going to talk about these numbers. We got 1,082, we got 688, we got 5 something, 988. Is there anyone on the call that between Facebook, your cell phone, and your database, you have less than 1,000 people?
Me.
Okay, and so are you brand new to real estate?
Me too.
Me
Me
too.
Me too.
Okay. If you have less than 1,000 between all of those things, we're going to get you out more. You know more people than what you have in your database, what you have in your cell phone list, and what you have in your Facebook friends list. And again, I've seen that be more than 1,000. 1,000 is the average. And what maybe you haven't been doing is spending at least even an hour or two a day lead generating, feeding the database, and then figuring out a way to communicate with it systematically. Because for those of you that have more than 1,000 people, how many have like 3 and 4 and 5,000 people on your list? Do we have any? Yep. And when somebody says they lived in their community for 10 or 15 years, I'm telling you, if you live in a community for 10 to 15 years, there's no absolute possible way you don't know 1,000 people, or that 1,000 people haven't met you before. You've crossed paths with more than 1,000 human beings in your lifetime, especially if you've been in a community for 10, 15, 20 years, right? So what you weren't doing before was focusing on feeding them into the database every day because, and it's not your fault, the reason why you didn't is because our industry teaches us to go get the next deal. And out of all the people that we know, if they were thinking about buying or selling, we would have had a conversation. So, but only 1% of the population is ever moving at any given moment. So here's what I want you to hear on this. If you have 1,000, I'm going to start small. Write your math down so you guys can follow me through the math. If you have 100 people in your, if you have 100 people, okay, we're just going to talk in bold terms. If you've been through bold, let's just say the next 100 people that you meet. If you ask them all, are you thinking about buying or selling real estate? Right? And how many of you have used this script before where you make calls and you say, hey, have you been thinking about buying or selling any real estate? And they usually respond with what? Most of the time, not thinking right now, right? Okay, and then we ask the next question.
I'm not interested.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm not, yep. And then so we ask the next question, well, who is the next person you know that might be buying or selling real estate, right? And 99.999% of them say, don't know anybody right now, right? So it's right there is where I stopped saying, well, if you think of somebody, will you let me know? Because I did that for many years and nothing was happening. My business wasn't going anywhere. I mean, I get a deal here and a deal there randomly, but it wasn't consistent, wasn't persistent. So I started saying, you know what? I just realized I just called you out of the blue and I just asked you this question. And of course you don't know anybody. Tell you what, do you mind doing me a favor? This next week, will you just keep your eyes and ears open that if anybody's talking about real estate, will you just jot down their name and give me a call? Right? Just like one thing I started there. Well, all of a sudden, I increased my calls back because what I did was I said, tell you, as soon as they said, what do you think they're going to say? 100% of the time, if you say, hey, I didn't expect that you were probably buying or selling, and I didn't think you know anybody because I just kind of called you out of the blue. Do you mind keeping your eyes and ears open this week? And if you hear anybody talking about real estate, will you let me know? What is that person going to say on the phone 100% of the time?
Yes, will do.
Absolutely. And they're just going to say a lot of it to get you off the phone because now they're like, okay. So then I dropped them a note in the mail. And before I hung up, I said, tell you what, I really appreciate you giving me some help. I'm going to call you. Today's Monday. I'm going to call you on Friday and just see if you heard anybody talking about real estate. So now what happens right there is I just made them slightly uncomfortable because now they committed to help me and now I called them out on it nicely, right? But how many of you like this script already where it's going? It's like, hey, I'm just gonna give you a call back on Friday. If you heard of anybody talking about real estate, I'll just touch base. Oh yeah, okay, sure, that'd be great. And then I dropped them a note in the mail today, Monday, right? They're gonna get the note on Wednesday and it says, thank you so much for agreeing to help look for people talking about real estate. Here's what's happening. By Wednesday, they forgot that I said I was going to call them on Friday and I would have got the same response. But now with the note, by Friday, they spent Thursday and Friday really listening for real estate because I said, I'm going to give you a call on Friday. Look forward to connecting again. Right. And so now they know I'm going to call. And then I called so I got 25% more referrals. 25% of those people would say stuff like, you know, my neighbor's been really cleaning his yard up a lot. I thought he was talking about maybe doing a transfer. Those are the kind of referrals I got. They weren't straight up referrals, but I started hearing them hear people talk about real estate. So I got their reticular activator on with 3 touches. It's the same thing with reconnecting with the people that are in our community that know us, like us, and trust us. Right now, you may not have the confidence that you think you're the person they can trust in real estate. But I'm telling you right now, the fact that you're all at Keller Williams and you're all in the actual office that you're in with the people that you're with, you are already in the top 20% of the agents in your community. In the top 20%, 80% of the agents in your community do not have somebody to go ask questions to, do not have brokers available to ask questions to, do not have training. They just gave them a phone, they got their license, and they're out there. You guys know they exist, right? I mean, you bump into these agents. So the fact that you're at Keller Williams and the fact that you're in this class and that we're talking about this, you're already in the top 20%. The point that I'm getting at is that extra follow-up is what makes the magic happen. And it's about marketing and brand awareness, that you're going to be the first person they think of when anybody sells real estate over the next week. Now we're going to take that to an 8x8 level where you touch them 8 times in 8 weeks after you connect with them. And the reason we're going to talk about reconnecting with your current list of people first, that's going to be your core pipeline of business. It is not some magic pill that's going to add 100 sales to your business instantly. It's going to take multiple follow-up calls of them hearing your voice, not an all email drip plan, not an all mail drip plan, any of that kind of stuff, not a Facebook program where you're buying banner ads. All that's not going to keep you in front of them. It's going to be your voice. After they hear from you the first time, you connect, you write them a handwritten note, and then you touch them. Yeah, go ahead. You touch them 2 more times by phone call over that next 8 weeks. Those 3 phone calls and hearing your voice and really connecting on a human basis first before realtor basis is going to build that trust and confidence and make them think of you first. So here's the numbers. Write this down. 100 people. If they're moving every 5 to 7 to 10 years, what would we say the consensus is out of this group of how often everybody's moving? 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Longer? Shorter?
5 to 7.
5 to 7?
Maybe 10. 7 to
Maybe
10.
Maybe 10?
Yeah, if they have kids, yeah.
Yep. And do we have anybody who says 3? Have anybody says longer than 10? On average, we're talking out of 100 people, all of them on average stay in their house longer than 10. So let's just go with 7.
Yeah.
So if you have 100 people and they're moving every 7 years, divide 100 by 7. That is what? Who's my mathematicians in the group?
220.
100 divided by 7.
Oh, sorry. 15? No, 14.
14.
14.
14.2.
14.2. Divide that by 12. That's 1. 1.9. So in our world of real estate, the way we've been doing things and the way the whole industry teaches us to do business is to call, look for the next deal. And if you called 100 people, you should get 1 or 2 appointments. Call 100 people, you should get 1 or 2 appointments. Call 100 people, get 1 or 2 appointments. And we do this routine. That's
Where we get the numbers?
What's that?
Where we get the phone numbers?
Oh, we're going to get to that. Believe me, we're going to get to that now. We're going to get to that for sure. But out of those 100 people, 1 or 2 people are moving. Here's what I know. Next month, if I called the first 100 people that I called again, I found 1 or 2 appointments. But if I call the same 100 people next month, I'm going to find 1 or 2 more. And if I call those same 100 people the next month, I'm going to find 1 or 2 more. And over the course of 7 years, by calling those 100 people every month, I would have found all 100 of them moved. And I would have caught all 100 of them. So now if I did 100 people this month and I get 1 or 2 deals, I keep in touch with those 100 people next month. But let's just say I add another 100 next month, right? So now I'm going to find 1 or 2 people that are the second batch of the first 100. And I'm going to find 1 or 2 people that are the first batch of the next 100. Next month, I just add another 100 people and I stay in touch with the first 200 people. Now I'm up to 6 possible opportunities. If I add another 100, guys, 100 people a month may sound overwhelming, and staying in touch with them all sounds overwhelming unless you create a system that reminds you to call them once every 3 months for the rest of eternity. Once you talk to all 100, put all 100 in your database. Do 5 a day, 5 people a day, every day, 5 days a week is 25 people a week. It's 100 people a month, 5 people a day. In the video, Gary said, 3 hours a day. If you just focus 3 hours a day on connecting with 5 people in your community, capturing them, putting them in the database, and scheduling calls to stay in touch with them. And you did that for 100 people a month. Guys, in 1 year, you will have added 1,200 relationships to your database. And what that looks like in command is not calling 1,200 people in 1 week. It's calling 5 people today, 5 people the next day, 5 people the following day. After you get through an 8x8, the most you might have in your first year is 10 calls in 1 day. Your first 5 people of the new people you added today, and the next 5 people that you're calling on week 4 of the 8x8 or week 8 of the 8x8. By the time it moves to the 36 touch, you're really only picking up the phone and calling them 4 times a year. That's like the minimum, 4 times a year. They hear your voice. But it's so spread out, you'll never have more than 10 or 15 calls, probably for the next 2 or 3 years, because the system just plays out. Play with the numbers if you don't believe it. It really pans out that way. And most of the time you get voicemails. So if I met somebody, wrote them a note, put them on an 8x8 and called them on week 4 and called them on week 8, I might get voicemail 1 or 2 of those times. And I'll just say, you know, hey, it's nothing important, just checking in. It was great connecting with you. That's all my message says. You don't need a listing appointment. You don't need anything. You're just communicating, hey, I was thinking of you. And I do that. And then I put them on a 36 touch and I call them in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months, in 12 months. And I just did that with everyone, over 1,200 people. 10 calls a day, 1 hour. Gary said 3 hours, consistently, persistently, keeping in touch. Out of those 1,200 people, 120 to 240 of those people are moving. And in the middle at 7 years, it's right around 200 or so, 177, I think, to be exact. Right? 177 people of those 1,200 people will be moving every year for the next 7 years. So you can have 177 transactions in 1 year of just doing 5 people a day. That's the biggest point that we got to make sure we cover today. All right, I'm going to pause there and make sure there weren't any questions about any of that stuff.
Yes, Ron.
Yes.
In my neighbor, there was a house for sale. So I went there, I met her and all that, spoke to her. This is like, she put in the market and I got my license like after a few days. So then I went to him, I say, I'm a real estate also and all that. If you're interested, she said, I just put it in, but give me your card. My sister is going to sell soon and I will give her. So I don't know if she gave or no, but I went second time to her also. So I said, can you give me your sister name? I can touch. She said, no, I'm going to give. She's not right now ready to move, but I will update you. Then I went third time. She was not there. And I don't want to go too many times, so she gets frustrated.
Yeah. So guys, here's the thing. That's the 1%
Yeah.
out of 100 people.
Yes.
Now you probably have another 97 to 98 people that didn't have a sister moving or they weren't moving. We're going to keep in touch with those 97 people as much as we did with that one, because next month somebody else has a sister moving, somebody else has a sister moving. So when you do this and you do 5 a day, you won't have to worry about the one sister that's moving that can't get a hold of, because your pipeline will be spitting those out to you on a consistent basis. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's chasing, looking for the next deal. You're going to eventually get that appointment, but life comes up. Life hits them in the face. Things happen. They get distracted. They get pulled off track. It's like, hey, we're thinking about moving this summer. right? But then this summer, the kids win the Little League World Series championship game. So they're traveling for 2 or 3 months in the summertime to play out the World Series Little League championship game. That they're not looking at houses, even though they were starting to. So buyers and sellers will get distracted on months on end. When they say buyers are liars, you know, it's just because life is happening and it distracts them a month or two. Do you know that most internet leads you have? How many of you have internet leads coming in? You have piles and piles of internet leads somewhere. And I want to pull this all together pretty quick because I know we're right at our top of our hour. But when all those internet leads come in, it's like all these people, if you have 100 internet leads that have come to your business, somehow you've got an email list of 10, 20, 30 buyers or 100 internet leads. Why aren't they all buying a house? Because they were online clicking a button to look at a house. Because most internet leads are 3 to 4 months away from being a serious buyer. They're just starting the process and we're capturing them. And then we're using all these scripts about buying right now, buy right now, buy right now. Let me take you out and show you houses. They haven't even gotten approved for their loan yet because they're just starting the process. They're actually not a buyer for another 6 months because they still have to get approved, a process. So everybody's got everybody that they're just working on the next deal, and those people aren't deals yet. If you take the 100 people that you meet this month just in your community and just stay in touch with them, they're going to eventually buy. And when you do it systematically, you'll have calls coming in. Guys, my phone, I don't go look for business. My phone rings with listing appointments. Today, I already got a call for somebody that said, hey, I need to get a value on my house. We're thinking about possibly selling if we can really get a lot of money. The phone call just came in. I didn't call out to find them. And that's because it's somebody that's been in my database for 10 years that I call consistently, persistently over the last 10 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
but I'm doing since 3 months, and I did an open house. I call the people. Somehow I go down. I don't know if I'm going to make it because it's too much things. Then I change my mind. You know, that's why it brings me in.
Yep. Keep staying in touch with them as a community person, not as a real estate agent bugging them about real estate. See, that's the other thing, is that everything, our follow-up systems are all about real estate. When they just said they weren't doing anything right now, we don't know what else to send them. How about just don't send them real estate stuff? Just stay in touch with them. Be a part of the community, like be available as a resource. Be available, like let's just say that person from the open house is not doing anything right now. Hey, that's great. When you're ready, you know a realtor that you can call and ask questions about. If you see a property for sale that you're just curious how much it is, just text me the address and I'll find it out for you, right? I don't care if they're buying or selling right now or not, because I'm going to stay in touch with them enough that I will be there when they do get ready to buy and sell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I am their go-to person. I don't care if they're buying today or not, because once they go into command and an 8x8 starts, and when the 8x8's over a 36 touch starts, and because I go into command and look to see what calls are due today, and I make those calls no matter what, I'm going to be there when they get ready to buy. But I don't even talk to them about real estate at that point. We're done. We're just touching base. How's everything going? Last time we talked, the kids were busy, or you had held off on buying a house. How's work going? Work going good? Okay, cool. Well, I just was checking on you, see how you're doing. I don't even say, oh, by the way, do you know anybody buying or selling real estate? I don't need to. Those scripts are for the people that say, it's really weird that you called today because we are thinking about doing something in the next month or two. So what happens here is this roller coaster. When we spend all this time finding the person that's doing something now, we stop looking for just keeping in touch with everyone else. And then once we help them buy a house, if you're looking at the screen, we go back down to nobody. We haven't talked to anybody in the last 2 weeks because we were helping them find a house. Then you got to ramp it back up again. So when your business, when you asked earlier about where to find phone numbers, and we'll go over this one again, but Google, Facebook, fastpeoplesearch.com. Fastpeoplesearch.com is a great one. I find their number wherever I can find their number. And Facebook will tell you where they live, what city they live in. Google will sometimes pull up work numbers or home numbers. Fastpeoplesearch.com will pull up every address they've ever lived at. But here's the next question that usually comes up. What do I talk about? I haven't talked to them in a while. family, occupation, recreation, dreams, family, occupation. How's the family? What have you been doing, right? How's work going through all this stuff that's happening? Wow, what have you been doing anything for fun to get through all this stuff, right? So it's not about real estate. You got to reconnect with them first. And then if you write a note to them that just says, so great hearing about the kids and work, glad everything's going good, and nobody's, you've gotten through what you've gotten through, or you've dealt with the things that you've dealt with, whatever it might be. I don't even talk about real estate. I don't even put a business card in the first note I send them. I don't even send them a Keller Williams card. I send them a blank card that says, so great talking to you today. Glad that everything's going good. Glad work is working out, blah, blah, blah. If I look forward to keeping in touch with
Hold
you.
But
on,
in this
hold on.
case, some people,
Wait, sorry, go ahead.
in some people in this case, they will say, why are you asking me? We are not related and all that as a friend or anything. Why are you asking me these things?
That they're not going to do that if you're calling just to catch up. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. If it's somebody who knows you. Now, if you're calling internet leads and trying to use this, that ain't going to work.
Yeah.
Because we're not even friends. If you take your Facebook friends list, your cell phone list, and your database, and you reconnect with all of them first by calling and saying, hey, it's Brad. I apologize. I haven't done a great job of keeping in touch with you. Because how many people do you have on? How many of those 1,000 people, 658 people, 782 people have you talked to in the last 30 days? Probably none to one or two.
Yeah.
So now is the time to grab 5 a day, reconnect, say, during all this stuff, I just realized 2 years has gone by and I have not done a good job of keeping in touch with you. So I'm just calling to check in. How are you? How are things going? Do not even talk about real estate. Here's why I'm going to allow you to not talk about real estate, because 98 to 99% of them are not moving right now. So just get it out of your head. There's no reason to use a real estate script. By the time you get done with your conversation, they will have probably asked, what are you doing? How are you doing, right? And I even say on this one, I appreciate you asking. I am selling real estate, but today's call was really about you. Because I'm going to talk about real estate later, knowing 98% of them are not buying or selling right now. And if they're one of the 1 or 2%, what are they going to say when I say, well, I'm selling real estate? However, that wasn't the purpose of my call. They're going to say, wait, we were just talking about that. We've been out looking at open houses. It's like, oh my gosh, well, maybe that is why I called today. What are you guys looking for? The 1 to 2% will come out in the conversation. I'm telling you, they're not going to let you off the phone without talking to you about real estate if they are the 1 or 2 people that are buying right now. It's the other 98 people that are going to over the next month, year, 3 years, 5 years that you need to stay in touch with.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm hearing 2 different things that you're saying. In the
Yep.
beginning, you were saying how you use your database to contact the people and to ask them if they're buying, if they're, what's going on, how are you? And then you talked about real estate. And then if they say, oh, I'm not looking for anything, then you ask them, if you know of anybody, can I follow up with you? Can I send a note? So you're talking about real estate through your database. Now you're saying, call them, but don't talk about real estate. Just talk about that. So I'm a little confused as to when I do talk about real estate and when I'm going into my database. That's 1 question. 2, there are people that I know that I don't know. And for me to call them, talk about their family, I know them through an acquaintance that we exchanged numbers once, but it was like a while back. It would be odd for me, like, hey, I'm just calling to catch up. It's just, it's awkward. So do I use the real estate approach then to them versus a friend of mine or a closer acquaintance where I would then just shoot the shit and be like, hey, I'm just catching up. There's 2 different conversations. So I'm confused as to which
So there's
ones
2
do
different
I-
conversations there. If I'm calling haven't met people, that's on a 12 touch plan. Where's my finger?
Not people you haven't met, people you know from your database, that people you know. You says people you know from your database, you're calling to talk about real estate. Then you're saying people you know from your database of your community that you don't talk about real estate. So when do I talk about real estate? No, with the people I know from my database.
Yes, I don't talk about real estate with the people I know from my database. I use family, occupation, recreation, dreams. and they will bring up real estate if they are actually doing anything with real estate. When I talked earlier about using the real estate scripts, I'm telling you, that's the way you've been taught to run your real estate business. If you will just take your Facebook friends list, your cell phone list, put all those people in a notebook on a piece of paper, just go through whatever you have, email, your cell phone,
I
Google,
understand. I
find
understand. No,
numbers.
no,
Yep.
I get it. I totally
Yeah,
get
so
it.
reconnect with them with family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Forget about real estate.
No,
'Cause
I get it.
Yeah, okay.
I totally get it. But
Okay.
there was a portion where you said, I do this myself. And it works for me. I'll say, well, can I check back with you if you know of anyone? And they usually
I don't
say,
say
no,
that. I don't say that. That was old school. Those scripts
Okay.
never worked for me. When I started focusing on my database and the people that already knew me, and I used this method, my business exploded. Now, it took a year to get my pipeline full.
Okay.
What I was telling you is before, when I used those scripts, I got 0 results, just like you may have if you've used them. Very few referrals, very few people do business with me. What I did was I tweaked it to get a better response. However, it was loosey-goosey responses, and 25% more people did not have come list me agreements. They were like, my neighbor's thinking of selling. Well, then I had to call the neighbor and talk to him as a stranger, and I didn't always get the listing. You know what I'm saying? That method that one will always generate a 50-to-1 return. Oh, that's on a different page when I was talking about the ratios. That method, using the real estate scripts, is always going to generate a 50-to-1 return, which is like the results of a 12 touch. They're usually like right here. Where did I miss them? It's a 12-to-2 return, or it's a 50-to-1 return, a 1-to-2% return. That's when you're talking to strangers looking for business. When you're talking to friends and family, you get a 12-to-2 return when you can put them on an 8x8 and a 33 touch, which you have to earn the right to send them 8 things in 8 weeks. And it shouldn't all be about real estate because 98% of them are not moving right now. You get that part? So when I stay in touch with them 8 times in 8 weeks, most people will not put somebody on an 8x8, or when I talk to agents, they're like, yeah, I really don't have a 36 touch. I use more like a modified 36 touch because I don't want to spam them, right? And if you're not sending them 36 things in a year, then and you consider it spam, then you're really not connected with them yet. Because I don't have one personal friend that has ever asked me to remove them from my mailing list, ever. Not a friend that I'm connected with. I've had strangers that I didn't really connect with that I put on a 36 touch and they asked to be removed, but that was only probably like 1 out of 1,000 people, right? So the point here is get connected with people first. You're not prying or asking for personal information. You're just, first of all, you're calling, just say, I haven't talked to you in a while. Just wanted to catch up. How are you? Right? That's the opening conversation. Now that will lead to, oh, okay, so how's the family doing? And once you start a conversation, you're not prying, you're just having a conversation. Right? I've lost track. I don't even know how many kids you have today. How many kids do you have? You know, but I can have that because the conversations broke open and we're just connecting, having a general conversation. What's going to drive you all crazy is you're not selling real estate right now, but you are. You're selling real estate to 100% of the people over the next 5 to 10 years versus trying to find the next deal right now. And if you just do this for an hour a day, hang up, shut off, turn off everything that we're talking about right now, go find the next deal, go call the next for sale by owner, go do all of that stuff. Does that make sense? I mean, this is the core piece that we're going to lead through all of these courses throughout Ignite. But we're about 15 minutes over, so I actually have to bring it to a close and make myself available for you all if you have any other questions. Are you guys all good with today so far?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, come back on Wednesday. This is always like whenever a plane's taking off, it takes a lot of energy to get off the ground and into the air. We're building this up. Very, very specific real estate stuff is coming and how to tie all this stuff together. You're going to put this layer in here and it's going to change the results that you get during Ignite by focusing on the people that already know you, like you, and trust you. Good?
Yes.
Family, occupation, recreation. I apologize for not keeping in touch. What a perfect time right now to be able to get away with these phone calls. I say get away because it's going to be a struggle to break from talking about real estate and using real estate scripts. And all I'm going to say is, how's that working for you so far? Either you're not making enough calls and using real estate scripts, or you've been using real estate scripts and it's not getting you a ton of listings. So we're going to go the other route and layer in our relationships and leverage those to be a big pipeline of business that you won't ever have to go look for business again. Does that sound good?
Yes.
It'll all make sense within 2 to 3 classes. You're going to see how it's all connected, and then you're you're not going to not get anything out of the next 2. It's very important that that is the core that you're going to get, and you'll see how everything today is like, oh my gosh, a light bulb is going to go off somewhere in the next 4, 5, 6 classes that you're going to go, I get it. Now I know why this is going to work. All right.
Yep. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you have to have the book? Because I didn't know that I had to buy the book.
Go to your market center. They will have a copy of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book for you. They can get you one, so you have it quickly. This is probably the core. This is the manual business Bible to running $1 million real estate business. What I'm saying is focus on page 133 through 148 first and read that a dozen times. And
Okay.
that'll be the core that feeds everything else in that book.
Okay. And we're meeting again on Wednesday?
Wednesday, same time, same bat channel.
Ram,
All
I
right.
have one last question.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
I'm doing since 3 months, 4 months almost, and working hard. And then I say, I don't know if I can make the money on this. What should I do? Change my career? What you suggest me?
Spending money on what?
No, like I'm working, I'm paying the coaches class, I'm paying GSML and Supra and everything. Since 4 months, I've been working hard I go open houses. I have not done yet anything. So that put me a little down.
Yes. You're not going to like my answer. Write every single name down on your Facebook friends list. Write every single name down in your phone. Go through your email inbox, your email outbox, write down every single name, everything, all of those in a notebook. And then I want you to take an hour a day and just try and find a phone number and an address for every name that you wrote down. Find as many as you can, because that is going to be your core list to be able to go back to start doing this call. And you're going to start doing this while you're going to plan for open houses and some other stuff. But man, I'm telling you, that's the grindstone of real estate. I mean, it's just, you're going to find yourself here in 6 months. If you look for the next deal, try to get the next open house. You need to focus on the people that already know you first. They're not moving yet, but they're all moving. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah. Thank you.
Switch your focus and layer this in for an hour every day, and you won't have to worry about the other stuff. I mean, we're going to cover tips on everything that you're asking about, but that is not going to bring you a consistent flow of business. It's going to be 10 different ways to find 10 different deals. And you got to keep doing them over and over and over again. This will be the core that you won't have to go look for those 10 deals anymore. Those will just
Maybe
come
I'm
to you.
waiting to get a one deal so I can get excited to do others then.
Every class will be talking about those things, but this is going to be layered in front of it. And if you skip this part, you're going to be fighting through, even going through the courses the way you are right now. That part won't go away.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Great question. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off here and close her out. We'll see you in 2 days.
Thank you very much.
You bet.